Okay, so welcome to the fourth session and second session of the fourth week. And you remember in the first session we talked about uh, why you select a particular method, or you have to ensure that the training is appropriate, method is appropriate to the requirement of the learner. So, that he is able to learn certain things and is going to apply that on the job. Now, apart from this consideration, we have to select a particular method, and we discussed about a number of methods that can be used. And in this context, we started with lecture or presentation methods. Now, in the second session, what we are going to discuss is experiential learning. Experiential learning, the difference between experiential learning and lecture method is that here the stake or the involvement of the participation is higher compared to what you call lecture method. So, we will discuss a variety of experiential method in this session, and first of all we have to understand what is an experiential learning. Okay. So, experiential learning actually is used in a team or group, and this is the most common for say leadership training or team building training and these kind of things, and it has 4 stages. At the first stage you must have the conceptual knowledge and theory about what is to be discussed, okay, and then you actually get involved in a simulated environment or real environment also. In most cases it is simulated environment, because in a training you are going to be involved in a simulated situation, you are going to perform certain things. I give you one example which is known as in basket exercise. This is also a case of experiential learning. So, in basket exercise what happens? There is a table, okay, there is a chair and the person is sitting here. So, there are a lot of files, there is a telephone, there are other things, okay, and you are going to enact as a manager, right. So, so you are going to experience that how a manager functions, but in order to function as a manager you must know what are the different activities that you have to perform and the kind of knowledge and skill that would be required for you to perform the job, right. So, you need to maintain all the files here. You also need to see that what are the other things that you have to do, you need to attend the telephones and these kind of things, right. So, you have to see that how effectively you are able to perform a job in a simulated environment. It is not actually you are going to work as a manager, but an environment is created which is more or less exactly like real life environment. So, a real life environment is enacted and then you are allowed to perform in that particular context to see whether you are able to work as a manager effectively or not. So, the kind of experiences that you have, the kind of learning that goes on, and then you have a discussion and feedback on that, that how well you have been able to perform that job, and that actually helps you to perform in a better way. So, when we are talking about experiential learning, so the first thing is that you must know about the content very well in terms of knowledge and skill related to what is going to be experienced by you. Then you participate in a behavioral simulation process. Then that is actually the activity is analyzed with the role of a moderator or the trainer, and then you try to relate it with the theory. So, that when you are going to perform it in a real life situation, you are able to better perform that. Okay. So, experiential learning is much better compared to what you call a presentation method, where you are going to simply have the information, because here your stake is much more, because if you are not able to emulate or perform well in a given situation or context, probably your learning is not going to be very good and effective. Now, if you look at what are the different kind of experiential learning that is used, it include case studies, games, business games or simulations, then you have role plays, you have behavioral modeling, okay, and also outdoor training, that is what we call field training. So, what we are going to discuss now is that how to apply these kind of methods in a given context, so that learning is going to be more effective, right. So, we will take up one by one these methods to make you understand that how what are these methods, how they can be applied, so that learning is going to be more effective. So, we start with the case study method. Case study method is very good, and sometimes it is used as a supplement even for the lecture method, right. So, what actually happens in a case study method? Okay. So, you are going to be provided a incident, a case in a given situation, okay, which could be related to a real life organizational context or setting, and then you are asked to analyze that what is the problem in that case, what could be the various perspectives that can be come out, okay, and then what are the various prescriptions that you have made in order to solve the case, right. So, the case study method is very good because it gives you an insight that how things have been worked out in a given case or incident, okay, why this problem has come up, what are the reasons of this problem, and what could be the possible solutions that you can come out with this problem. So, it allows you to think creatively and to see that you come out with various perspectives or various options to solve the problem. Now, it is nothing else but a description about how an employee in the organization would deal with a particular situation or even a difficult situation. So, that if you face these kind of situation in the organization, you can use these kind of learning experiences to solve these kind of problems. Okay. So, the role of the trainees is that they need to analyze and critique the actions taken, okay, whether the action was taken which is an appropriate or not, okay, and suggest what can be done, right. Similarly, you also see that you are able to recall your knowledge and skill that you have learned related to that particular course, right. So, one example that I have taken here is a marketing course has students, they select a firm and given a hypothetical situation and are asked to apply their marketing knowledge to analyze the situation. Say for example, there is a case in the marketing and then in this case actually the students are given a situation that which market they should go for, and then you are going to explore various markets which are given there, and then you select based on the information knowledge that you have related to your marketing research, your marketing strategy, you decide okay, this is the thing that needs to be done by the organization, okay, and then you also suggest certain prescriptions. So, if you look at the case study method, it goes like this, right. You have a case which could be a smaller case, it is called incident, or if it is a big case then it is called a case, it could be small or large depending upon the requirement. Okay. So, incidents are smaller cases, one incident, right, cases are bigger one. Okay. Now, once you have this case, so the first stage is that you give a brief summary of the case, what the case is about. Okay. So, you go through the case thoroughly, you give a summary, okay, the case is about this one. Say, let me take an example to explain it. Suppose, there is a case related to say promotion. Now, there is a manager who has to decide about a promotion and there are 4 people who have applied that, okay, and he has all the idea and information about these 4 people who have applied to the promotion, and then he has selected one person out of this, right. Now, when you are given this case as HR student, you have to see whether the manager has made the right selection or not, or what were the other options that could have he could have, right. So, first of all you are going to do is provide a summary, then you analyze the problems related to the case. Okay. That is, what are the reasons that has happened because of the case. Once you are able to identify the reasons and the problem, right, then the next stage you are going to identify, say I will not call it solutions, but what you call it, say the options that can be used to solve this problem. So, actually you should not be prescriptive. Okay. In a case study, since it is an incident that has already happened, so if you are going for a prescription that cannot be applied in a new case or a new situation which a manager is going to face, because the context and the environment changes. So, instead of giving a prescription, you should come out with options, and not only just one options, but you can come out with 1, 2, 3 options, what should have been done. And for each options you are going to provide again the disadvantage for going for this or advantage for going for this kind of what you call option. Similarly, for each one of them you can go for advantage and disadvantage. So, in a case study it is very important to look at the problem, look at the reasons, then come out with options, not solutions or prescriptions, and you come out with more than one options, and for each options you discuss about the advantage and disadvantage, and then your role is over. You do not need to be prescriptive, right. So, that let the manager of the organization decide how he is going to use these kind of things depending upon two things, that is context and the situation. In which context it is, right, and what is the situation. For example, suppose you are an IR manager and there has been a labor confrontation in an organization, there is a dispute and something has happened, right, and the manager has taken certain decisions in that context, okay, in order to solve the problem. Now, this case is given to you as a learning experience. So, when you go through this case, you see that what you are going to do is that okay, why this dispute happened, what could be the reasons of the confrontation, what was the problem because of which this confrontation came out, what could be the reasons of this confrontation, what are the various options through which this kind of confrontation or dispute can be avoided in there, right. So, he has taken a decision depending upon the context and the environment at that point of time, but if we cannot use the same kind of say solution if there is a conflict and you are an HR manager, IR manager, and you are going to solve this problem, right, because the context and the situation might change, right. So, you have to look at these context and situation, you come out with various options and let the manager decide or think about it that okay, if these kind of situations are there, how we can solve this kind of problem. So, case study method is very good for understanding certain situations. So, that is how we go about it. You have to identify the case, collect information related to the case, prepare a brief summary, decide on the various issues that may come up, and then you are going to prepare the case. So, if you are going to prepare a case, these are the guidelines that could be used, right. For example, suppose if I want to prepare a case okay, on industrial relations in organizations, right. So, we have to find a story. Okay. We have to find a story means you have to see that whether this kind of problem has happened somewhere. Maybe recently there was a case related to IR in say in a particular factory. So, we can go and see what kind of what is the story, what was the dispute that has happened. So, collect the information, prepare an outline, look at the various issues and then prepare a case material. So, and this case can be discussed in the class. Okay. The idea of discussing this class is so that this case is so that you can develop certain skills and knowledge especially related to analysis, synthesis and evaluation. So, you are able to analyze the situation, you are able to synthesize everything together and then you would be able to take a position or evaluation that what needs to be done in a given case. The idea in a case is that it is going to help you to see that what needs to be done. Okay, based on the analysis of the situation. Okay. And then the last point is that it may not actually relate to the work situation or the problems that the trainee is going to encounter in future. So, but it will gives you some input, okay, this is how people have been dealing with this and these are the various options that could be employed. So, depending upon the context and the situation, okay, based on the input that he has and the knowledge and skill, he is going to employ a strategy to diffuse the situation, right. So, this is how the case methods can be used and this is how the case is prepared. Some of the considerations are very important in a case study, like you have to go for specific instructional objectives, okay, what is the objective of this case, okay, why you are using a case method, what are the attributes of this particular case that you are going to discuss, what are the specific things, who are the learners, whether they have the requisite knowledge and skill base, what is their attitude and behavior, okay, and how much time is available, because you know that a case discussion involves around 40 to 45 minutes in a group, right. And then you have to see that you are going to provide a more congenial environment for discussion of the cases. Okay. And then you have to see that who is the moderator, because the moderator's role is very important. Okay. And then because he is going to give you certain inputs, he is going to see what needs to be done, what is not to be done, okay. And he is going to see that you are in the right track when you are discussing the case. So, that you can there is not going to be any time overrun, and we are going to discuss to the point, okay, and then everybody is participating in the case discussion. That is very, very important. Okay. Now, moving from case studies, we are moving to the another important method that is used in delivering training is games, business games or simulations. Simulations means it's you are going to create a real life situation either in a lab or in the field, both it is possible. Okay. And then you are going to ask them to play certain games. This is known as management games or business games. These business games are very popular today, especially for training managers and senior managers, because since they are going to participate in the decision making. So, any manager who is involved in decision making process should go through these kind of simulated exercises to understand things in a better way. So, in a business game what actually happens? The trainees have to collect information, okay, and based on the information you are going to take a decision, right. So, you are going to develop skills related to decision making, leadership and these kind of things, and that is where this kind of simulated environment is going to help you to take a decision. Why we call it simulated learning? Because you are going to be actively involved, okay, and mimic the nature of the business in a simulated environment, right. It means we are going to create the same situation and the same environment elsewhere, not in an organization, and then you are going to actively participate in the process, right. For example, I have heard some games, you can find it online also, like beer game, okay, that actually used to get students introduced to the concept of supply chain. So, if you really want to learn them supply chain, then this game could be used. This online game is available, where you can go and play this game to understand the concept of supply chain management. Okay. There is another game which is also available online. This is related to basically innovation, okay, and understanding the business ecosystem. This is known as Innova 8.2.0 is a IBM game, actually simulation game. It is for IT and business analysis, business basically, where and you have to play to better understand that how effective business process management impacts the entire business ecosystem. Okay. Actually, when you are going to play any kind of business game or simulations, so you have teams, and the idea is to see that you are able to play it effectively to win the game, right, in any management game. So, and it is seen that how effective you have been while playing this game. So, to beat the rivals or the competitors, right. So, it is a kind of contest that you are going to have among the trainees, okay, based on certain criteria. Suppose you are going to play a game related to stock exchange, or it has to see that how much money you are able to make in a game of a stock exchange, right. So, the idea is that whether you are able to demonstrate your knowledge and skill while playing the game. Okay. For example, if you look at a football game, what happens, or a volleyball game, every player is going to demonstrate his knowledge and skill base to win the game against the competitor, right. And I am giving this example to explain you that how any business games are played. So, in a business games there are different parties, and each party is try to win over the others, and each party is going to see that the people who are part of the party is going to use their knowledge and skill base to see that how they are going to win the game. And you know that when you are going to play a game, there are certain rules that you have to follow. Okay. Similarly, you have to see that at the end of the session you are going to debrief it, okay, that how well each one has played the game, okay, and the kind of learning experiences that you have, whether these kind of learning experiences can be applied on the job or not. Okay. So, business games are very popular method for learning experiences. Then coming to the role plays. Even in business simulations also you play certain roles, you play games, but specifically in role plays what actually happens, the trainees are going to play the role of a character, okay, which is going to be in a given situation. For example, in films you have seen that actors play different kind of roles. The idea is that to ensure that how effectively you are going to play the role in a given situation or in a number of situations, right. So, role play is a very effective way to understand things, that how you are going to play the role of in a given situation that you are going to enact. Now, that the role of the trainer is that you have to engage in several activities before, during and after the role play. So, before role play what happens? You have to create the role, you have to create the script, right. Then you have to find trainees who are going to play different kind of roles, and after the role, then the debriefing session is there, where the trainer is going to discuss with the observations of other participants that how effectively you have played the role, various roles, right. So, trainer has a much better role to play, and role play differs from simulations depending upon the choice available to the trainees, okay, and the level of detail of the situation given to the trainees and the outcome of the training response. Here in simulation, the outcome of the training response is immediate, because either you win or the lose. In a role play, you do not know whether you have won or lost, right. Let me give an example. Suppose you are from the management side and there is a representative from the union side, and you are going to negotiate terms and conditions of employment, okay, and you are going to play the role of a manager, the other person is going to play the role of a union representative, right. So, in this case what happens? The script for both is to be written, both of them are going to enact, and other participants are going to observe that how well you have played the role of the manager based on the knowledge and skill that you have. So, the you do not have much choices, right. You have to go by what is given to you, and then under certain constraints how effectively you are going to play your role as either as a manager and either as a union representative, right. That is what I have taken up. So, playing the role of a union leader or manager, the trainees played out the scenarios which are then often followed by a trainer led discussion. So, at the end of that what happens? You are going to have a discussion, okay, how effectively you have played different kind of roles. Then coming to another important method, that is behavioral modeling. Okay. Behavioral modeling, actually this has come from social learning theories, that is how we are going to learn by observing the behavior of other persons. Okay. So, the other person become a role model, and then we try to enact what the person has been doing. Okay. So, we basically try to replicate the behavior of the models, and then we try to act upon that, right. So, sometimes you know that we try to enact that role model and then try to behave in that way. Sometimes we try to enact say characters from the film, sometimes we try to enact our teachers, okay, and then we try to behave in that way, and sometimes we try to enact as good managers. Okay. The idea is that you are going to model those behaviors which are effective and doing well in the context of the organization, right. Now, in behavioral modeling what actually happens, that you are going to develop a behavior the model which is going, and then you are going to see that what kind of behavior is going to be there. Okay. Now, when you are going to have any program on behavioral modeling, so you need to see that the tasks that are not being adequately performed by the person, which is performed by the model, okay, and what are the key behaviors that is actually performed by the managers. Okay. So, you need to basically focus and concentrate upon those behaviors which are important and which is done by the person who is going to modify his behavior, right. So, the idea is that you look at the model, observe it, and then accordingly you change your behavior, so that you also become effective like the model. Okay. For example, if a person is asked to observe a video to behave in a certain way and follow his behavior to change himself, right. So, you go through the model in a video, and then you look at how he is performing, what he is doing, and then accordingly you also try to enact those behaviors in your characters. Okay. So, how this behavioral modeling training program goes on? What actually happens? First of all, you watch the videos, okay, then listen to the skill module, okay, then discuss experiences, that how you are going to make use of it. Then skill preparation and development takes much longer time, because you have to view the model, participate in the role plays and practice it, and receive oral and video feedback on performance by the key behaviors, that how well you have been able to perform those behaviors. Then ultimately the application part, whether you have been able to deficient on certain behaviors, what is the improvement level. So, again you are going to do the same kind of things. So, identify situations in which you are going to use these key behaviors to be more effective, and whether you will be able to apply these kind of behaviors on the job or not. Especially this kind of behavioral modeling is done in case of leadership training programs. So, you are going to watch videos of effective leaders, various scenarios where they are going to be very effective, and then you participate in role plays, you practice those kind of behaviors, then you allow yourself to do it, look at your improvements and then see what changes have been made, get the feedback from the trainer and then try to apply that on the job to become more effective as leaders, right. So, this is about the activities in behavioral modeling. Then the last part is related to outdoor training. Outdoor training is also known as field training. So, in field training what happens? It is off the job training. Okay. So, you go to the field and then you perform certain activities, okay. And this kind of field training is actually very popular, especially when it comes to what you call team building. Okay. So, you can have different kind of like tracking, rope courses. So, basically this facilitates team building activities, and then you basically it is good for teams where you want to identify the problems related to group, the group dynamics, how the group is able to solve the problem, whether the cohesiveness in the group or not, whether the group members are able to participate, everybody is engaged in these kind of activities or not. So, for these kind of things you can go for outdoor training, which is very very popular these days, and this is the best way to go for team building activity actually. Though it is a fun, because if you are going for these kind of things outdoor, people also enjoy in the process, but actually the idea is that you learn certain things, and it may include like going for adventure learning, team learning or even action learning. So, these are the three variations of outdoor training, right. Now, I am giving an example of our experiential learning. For example, we are going to you have asked say managers or participants to organize a picnic in the riverside, right. So, in the process what happens? People with specific roles and responsibilities are going to achieve that the picnic is going to be very very effective, that is the basic objective of training program. Now, it is learner centered in the sense that everybody has to actively participate in the process, because it is their responsibility to look at different activities, organize these activities, make each one of them responsible for different activities. This also requires coordination from all the members, so that they can organize a picnic in a better way, right. And then you also give them a task certain, so you have to see that how well they have conducted those tasks in a better way. So, these kind of exercises basically helps to identify the problems that a group has related to their dynamics, right. Whether they follow certain norms and values, whether they have been able to develop as a good team, whether they can work with each other or not, what are the problems and issues that they are facing. So, all these problems will be able to be identified if you go for this kind of training. So, what is the opportunity that it provides? You are going to engage in an activity, okay, say organizing a picnic. You see that what are the various activities that is to be done, and then based on this activity you are going to draw useful insight from the analysis. You are, once you go through this, then you are going to reflect back, okay, what was done, what went wrong, okay, whether the food was good, whether transport was good, or whether people were coordinated well or not. Okay. So, you are going to analyze this kind of situation, right, and you can apply this in a practical situation. So, when you are going to do something in a project so that you can work as a team more effectively. So, that is the idea of an outdoor training. So, methods that is used is going to be more successful for group building or team building is. So, you have to see that in a group building exercise or team building exercise, actually the participants are able to develop those skills. So, suppose they do not talk to each other. So, at least this exercise helps him to see that they are able to talk to each other very well, they are able to learn from each other. Everybody is going to say convey his, communicate his knowledge and skill base to facilitate the process, right. And then at the end of that, there is the facilitator or the trainer who is going to lead the discussions, okay, how well it has gone, what you have learned in the process, which event you found that is could be related to the job. Okay. So, basically on the one side you can say yes, it is a fun to go for an outdoor training, but at the same time it also gives you some freedom to learn certain things in a different way, right. And then you have to see that whether you are able to apply them on the job or not. Look at this, what happens if you are going for a team training. See what are the tools that you are going to use to measure the effectiveness, how each one has done well. You are going to measure their performance. Okay. What are the tasks and exercises that was given to them, get the feedbacks, what were the basic rules and regulations that they have followed, and what method is followed in a team training, whether it was information based or it was the practice based, or they were supposed to play certain roles. Then what is the strategy, whether you are going for coordination, team leader or cross functional training. Based on that, you would identify the objective and see what is the knowledge, skill and attitude that you are going to deliver out of this program. And then there could be number of methods that could be used, like scenario based building, okay, where you place team members in a realistic context while learning, right, or there could be guided team self corrections, which actually emphasizes on continuous learning and knowledge sharing. Okay. Then there are other methods that could be used, like action learning, okay, where you are actually solving a problem as a group. Then you commit to an action plan, people are accountable for what they are doing, okay, and they try to address how we are going to change certain things in the business, how we can better utilize technology, and what are the barriers that we can have or is there between the company and the customer, and what needs to be done. So, as a group you can address these problems in a better way, provided you are allowed to work on it, and then you act as a team, right. So, this is what we call an action learning, where you are going to work on an actual real life situation to see that how you are going to develop. Now, I am just giving some examples of team building, like Six Sigma. Six Sigma, you know, is a method for improving quality. Okay. So, you have to bring in the quality standards at the rate of what you call 3.4 defects per million process, right. And there is a different processes through which you have to go when it comes to Six Sigma. So, as a team you have to see that everybody is involved in the process, otherwise if one person is not involved, he is going to make a mistake, and then you will not be able to achieve this standard of quality, right. And then you are given certain certificates that yes, you are Six Sigma certified, and you get certain belts like green belts, black belts and these kind of things. But if you look at the application of team building, that is very much important here. Why? Because unless you are able to work as a team, it is not possible at all to achieve these quality standards. Or another example, Kaizen, this is very famous in Japan. Actually, this basically is related to continuous improvement of the business. So, as a group you perform certain activities which help the company to improve certain business processes, right, and you will be able to identify what are the processes which are redundant, what are the processes which needs to be closed down or shut down, what are the processes that we need to adopt, what are the things that you have to restructure in order to ensure that you are doing only those things which are important and relevant, right. So, these are some of the examples. So, in this session we have discussed about experiential learning. Okay. Thank you very much.